Vanessa sat across from me, her eyes focused on her tablet, her well-manicured nails lightly tapping on the screen. Your presentation is outdated. We're restructuring commissions and cutting base pay by 40%. I am 52 years old, with saute pepper hair that started showing in my 30s. My name is Jeffrey Maddox, and I served as the Senior Vice President of Sales at Trillic Woodworks, a commercial millwork supplier in Austin, Texas, for 15 years. Although my business card said Senior Vice President, my main responsibility was ensuring everything ran smoothly. I was directly responsible for overseeing our top 10 accounts. They weren't just clients, they were relationships built over 15 years, through countless phone calls and dinners, where I resolved issues before they became problems. I knew their children's names, their golf handicaps, and their vacation destinations. They reached out to me before contacting their teams when problems arose. The new framework will encourage growth. Vanessa slid a document across the table. We're adjusting the compensation packages of everyone to align with industry standards. I skimmed the paper. A 40% reduction in base pay. Even with growth, the commission restructure would make it impossible for me to earn what I currently do. And with benefit reductions. Vanessa Claymore had joined 3 months after the acquisition, wearing designer suits and carrying a Harvard MBA. She spent her initial weeks analyzing spreadsheets and holding closed-door meetings with the executives of the parent company. I knew exactly how she saw me. A relic who should be grateful to keep his job, someone expensive and outdated. Is there a timeline for this transition? I asked, my voice steady. Immediate effect, she replied. She maintained a stern expression. Everyone must be in agreement with this new strategy. I stood up, closed the folder, and extended my hand. I appreciate your clarity. Her smile wavered slightly. She had been expecting arguments, negotiations, or perhaps even desperation. Instead, she received a handshake and a calm departure. She watched me from her office later that afternoon as I packed a few personal items into a cardboard box. Nothing too dramatic. A pen set from a client, an old sales award, and a photo of my daughters at their college graduations. As I left, I gave a nod to Thomas, our chief financial officer. He had been with me from the start. His eyes conveyed what his mouth couldn't express. This wasn't just about cost-cutting. The real intent was to get rid of me. I didn't slam any doors or screech my tires in the parking lot. I quietly placed the box in my trunk, adjusted my rearview mirror, and drove away with 15 years of client relationships that Vanessa had recently transferred to the competition. I had built that sales department brick by brick. When I joined Trillic in 2010, we were a regional player with $8 million in annual revenue. By the end of last year, my personal accounts made up over $12 million of the $73 million my team generated. Before I was 16, my father, who ran a small cabinet shop in Dallas, taught me everything about wood, joinery, and finishes. After college, I explored various sales positions until I found Trillic. It was a moment of clarity. I understood the products because I had grown up surrounded by them. In the same meeting, I could discuss technical details with architects and negotiate pricing with purchasing managers. Oliver Wainwright, the owner, acknowledged my contributions. "You're not just selling a product," he would say. "You're selling trust." He gave me the freedom to build my department in my own way. I recruited energetic, youthful representatives and shared the knowledge that Oliver had imparted to me. Transactions may be important, but relationships are far more significant. Though I felt uneasy, I refrained from showing any alarm when Oliver decided to sell the company to Driftwall Labs last year. Acquisitions were a necessary part of the business cycle. I approached it as I would any other change. The first signs of trouble appeared when they began the process of replacing the executive team. A new CEO with no ties to the industry. Our digital presence was to be restructured by the new marketing director. Then, Vanessa began presenting her strategies on resource optimization and operational efficiency. Initially, small adjustments were made. Travel budgets were slashed. Multiple approvals were now required for customer leisure accounts. My weekly meetings with the executive team gradually became monthly, and then as-needed meetings. Vanessa clarified in one of our previous meetings that we were simply optimizing the process, nothing personal. However, it became personal when she began scheduling conversations with my most important clients without my involvement. When she started asking about the discounts I negotiated years ago, which helped maintain client loyalty despite price increases. She suggested that my team needed a fresh perspective and appointed 2 of her former colleagues as regional managers. Thomas had tried to warn me during our quarterly budget meeting. he quietly said, glancing toward the door. They're scrutinizing the sales compensation structure very carefully, especially the legacy arrangements. I was the last remaining legacy arrangement. A week before the final meeting, I saw Vanessa having lunch with Gabriella, my most recent hire. They were seated close to each other, engaged in an animated conversation. Vanessa casually waved at me as if running into me was a pleasant surprise, while Gabriella looked down at her plate when she saw me walk into the restaurant. Gabriella didn't make eye contact when I asked about the lunch afterward. She muttered, "I'm just getting to know the team." At that moment, I knew what was coming. The trajectory, not the specifics. Vanessa's announcement that evening made me sit in my home office and review the sales reports from the last decade. Steady growth for 15 years. 15 years of building Trillic Woodworks into a leading name in the industry. Your compensation package is now obsolete, as it is being dismissed after 15 years of loyalty. Suddenly, my phone buzzed. A text message from Frank Donnelly, the purchasing director at Western Commercial, our greatest account. Heard rumors regarding significant changes at Trillic. Always well. Phone me. Frank and I had collaborated for 12 years. I had assisted him with his son's college applications, a divorce, and to company restructures. We were not merely professional associates. We would establish a friendship. I summoned him after pouring 2 fingers of liquor. Jeffrey responded promptly, "What is the situation over there?" I received a telephone call from a woman who informed me that she is taking over our account. Vanessa Claymore, our new sales director, is the individual in question. I responded by maintaining a neutral tone of voice. She initiated a conversation regarding the evaluation of our pricing structure and the implementation of a new vendor management system. Frank's voice became increasingly strained. "We have established effective procedures and a contract. I am not in need of guidance regarding the management of my suppliers." I took a leisurely sip, allowing the silence to linger. "Jeffrey?" Frank reduced the volume of his voice. "Are you intending to remain? Because if you are not, we must discuss the matter." All of a sudden, everything became transparent. Neither my title nor my sales figures were indicative of my value. It was based on 15 years of trust, 15 years of resolving issues rather than generating them, 15 years of relationships that could potentially depart with me. Considering my options, I stated with caution, "Well, take this into account. Before I am required to interact with Harvard Barbie once more, please contact me if you arrive at a different location." I opened my laptop and composed an email to Daniel Harrison at Pinnacle Supply Group after the call ended. He had mentioned that they were interested in expanding their commercial millwork division during our previous encounter at an industry conference last year. I refrained from transmitting it immediately, rather, I retained it in my manuscripts folder. I received calls from 3 additional consumers the following morning, all of whom had similar concerns. Vanessa had already initiated communication, implemented modifications, and disrupted relationships that she did not comprehend. In order to conclude my desk cleanup, I made one final trip to the office. Thomas concealed a folded piece of paper in my possession as I conducted my packing. He discreetly mentioned the average annual spend of your clients and their retention rates. "I believed you might require it." I acknowledged his statement by nodding. He was aware of my value, regardless of Vanessa's opinion. I called my lawyer to examine my non-compete agreement, sent the email to Daniel at Pinnacle, and finalized my resignation letter that afternoon. I confirmed my suspicions. It was applicable to products rather than consumers. For 6 months, I was unable to sell competitive millwork. However, this did not impede my ability to sustain my relationships. I no longer experienced feelings of anger. I experienced a sense of clarity and concentration. There is a certain influence in being dismissed as outmoded and underestimated. What this implies is that they are unaware of your approach until it is too late. Before accepting Daniel's offer at Pinnacle Supply Group, I spent 2 weeks investigating my alternatives. The position was flawless. I am the Senior Vice President of Business Development, and I have complete autonomy to establish my own division. Daniel stated during our final meeting, "We require your expertise, Jeffrey. You are aware of the strategies that are effective in this sector. It is unnecessary to reimagine the wheel." I contacted Vanessa the following day to discuss my resignation and transition plan. I suggested that I remain for a period of 2 weeks to guarantee a seamless transfer of my accounts. She replied with a composed demeanor, "That will not be required. We have already communicated with your consumers. The transition will be managed by Gabriella." I elaborated that these relationships are intricate. Additionally, each account contains subtleties that necessitate additional time. She interrupted me, but we have all of your notes in the CRM. And to be honest, your methodology was somewhat antiquated. We are in the process of implementing a client management strategy that is more data-driven. I could have debated, but what was the purpose? From the instant she entered the room, she had formed an opinion about me. She concluded, I will have HR handle your exit paperwork. Kindly ensure that all company property is returned by the end of the week. Frank from Western Commercial and I convened for lunch 3 days later. Gabriella had not received a response to his phone calls and Vanessa had escalated the matter to his supervisor. A 48-question client satisfaction survey was sent to me by your replacement. Frank shook his head. Subsequently, she delivered a presentation regarding their newly implemented customer success metrics. Metrics are unnecessary for me. I require an individual who comprehends our organization. I nodded in agreement, but I maintained a neutral tone in my remarks. I had no intention of disparaging Trillic. What is your next destination? Frank inquired directly. I will be assuming the position of SVP of Business Development at Pinnacle. Frank raised his eyebrow. Fascinating. For years, they have endeavored to secure our business. I consume my water in small quantities. I will commence my duties in 2 weeks. Frank stated as he slid his business card across the table. Please contact me once you have completed your preparations. I received a certified letter from Trillic's legal department the following day. It served as a reminder of my non-compete obligations and cautioned me against any improper solicitation of Trillic clients. The letter enumerated each significant account that I had overseen by name. My telephone call that afternoon. Harold Lang, the CEO of Northwell Construction, was another patron in the top 10. Jeffrey, what is the matter? This new woman is attempting to modify our payment terms. He asserts that our account structure necessitates optimization. For a decade, we have operated on a net 45 basis. Trillic is no longer my employer, therefore, I responded with caution. Yes, I realized that when she contacted me. What was the location of your arrival? I provided him with the fundamentals of Pinnacle. He interrupted me prior to my completion. Do they manage identical product lines? Indeed, they are comparable. All right, please contact me on Monday. I am interested in discussing potential solutions. I had received similar inquiries from 5 additional clients by the end of the week. The pattern of each conversation was consistent. Complaints regarding Vanessa's methodology, inquiries regarding my new role, and requests to establish communication upon my arrival. I had not approached a single client. They were approaching me. I received an unexpected phone call from Vanessa on my final day of employment. She stated, I understand that you have been in contact with Trillic clients. Her voice was tense. Yes, I have conversed with a few individuals. A significant number of them have become personal companions over the course of 15 years. She stated that we take those proprietary commercial relationships into account. An infraction of your separation agreement would result from any attempt to redirect that business. I responded impartially, as I comprehend my obligations. Good, she snapped, as the last thing you want is a legal dispute with Driftmoor's counsel. I transmitted the call recording to my attorney after the call ended. The same attorney who had previously verified that my non-compete agreement only prohibited me from selling millwork for a period of 6 months. I was not hindered from selling additional construction supplies to those same clients through Pinnacle. Those consumers were not hindered in their decision to adhere to me. Vanessa had recently disclosed her initial genuine apprehension. She was beginning to comprehend the consequences of her actions in pushing me out the door. My initial day at Pinnacle commenced with an epiphany. Daniel acknowledged during our morning meeting that we have been attempting to penetrate Trillic's market for years. Your predecessor pursued Western Commercial for 18 months without successfully navigating their purchasing department. I concurred that Frank Donnelly is not a trusting individual. Daniel leaned forward. I am unable to comprehend the following. Trillic's client retention rate is nearly 95%, while the industry average is approximately 70%. Which of their secrets is it? I nearly burst out laughing. Their concealment was situated directly in front of him. I clarified that it is not a secret, it pertains to relationships. Oliver recognized that contracts may confine clients to paper, but relationships maintain their loyalty in the face of competitors' price cuts. Daniel hesitantly nodded. Additionally, the new management fails to comprehend this. Relationships are perceived as inefficient by the new management. Vanessa desires automated systems rather than telephone conversations. My assistant interrupted me with an urgent message before I could elaborate. Thomas, Trillic's chief financial officer, desired to convene. We scheduled a meeting at a tranquil bar in the heart of the city following the conclusion of our workday. As I approached, Thomas appeared anxious, occasionally gazing over his shoulder. He promptly stated, "I should not be present, however, you are," I responded, ordering a beverage for both of us. Thomas propelled a packet across the table. "Yesterday, the board convened. I believed it would be beneficial for you to review this." Vanessa's quarterly strategy presentation was enclosed. The preliminary pages comprised conventional marketing strategies and projections. I subsequently observed it. Transition strategy for clients. Maddox accounts. My former clients were to be transferred to Gabriella and to new account managers, as outlined in the plan. It encompassed a timeline for relationship reclamation and talking points that addressed potential objections to my departure. But what captivated my attention was the financial projection, which indicated that my clients represented $17.3 million in annual revenue, which is nearly 24% of Trilliq's total revenue, rather than the $12 million I had previously estimated. Thomas said quietly, "They never disclosed the true value of your book." Oliver was aware, however, subsequent to the acquisition. He maintained an indifferent demeanor. "Why are you displaying this to me?" Thomas consumed an extended beverage, due to the fact that their actions are not appropriate. Additionally, Vanessa has already failed to meet her forecast. She informed the board that the disruption is temporary due to the transition, however, the figures are unambiguous. He touched the folder. "Yes, she has already lost Northwell, has she not?" I did not corroborate or deny the information. I was no longer accountable for client decisions. Thomas persisted, "It will only deteriorate from here. Next month, she will implement price increases for all legacy accounts." The board endorsed it on the basis of her analysis that we have been underpricing the market for years. I now comprehend. Vanessa had not merely desired my departure in order to reduce my compensation. She had regarded my client relationships as an impediment to her aggressive revenue strategy. She had the ability to increase prices, modify terms, and establish new systems that would generate additional short-term profits from the relationships I had spent years cultivating without my involvement. Thomas's voice lowered as he added, "There is something else. They have been conducting an audit of your expense reports for the past 3 years in order to identify any discrepancies. They will be unable to locate any. I am aware of this, however, they are constructing a narrative. In the event that clients begin to depart, they require an individual to assign responsibility." Thomas hesitated as he departed. "I am in the process of revising my curriculum vitae. I simply thought it would be beneficial to inform you." As I made my way home, I experienced an unusual sense of tranquility. I was not merely acquiring knowledge about Vanessa's opinion of me. All along, I was discovering the true nature of Trilliq's opinion of me. My worth was evident in their figures, however, it was not reflected in my compensation. While secretly strategizing to extract additional profits from them after my departure, they were content to capitalize on my relationships. The truth was not merely that Vanessa had underestimated me. Trilliq had consistently undervalued me for an extended period of time. After 2 months in my new role at Pinnacle, I had established a routine. I had personally selected 2 young sales representatives for my small but expanding team, and my office provided a view of downtown Austin. I had not immediately approached any of my former clients. It was unnecessary for me to do so. They approached me. Harold from Northwell contacted Trilliq the day following the implementation of their price increase. He was furious at the sudden 14% increase that occurred without any prior notification. "Is it possible for Pinnacle to replicate our initial pricing?" While incorporating value-added services that Trilliq had never previously provided, we were able to do so. Afterward, Westerly developers arrived, followed by regional builders and Austin Modern Construction. The complaints of each individual were comparable: impersonal service, rigorous new policies, and unexpected price increases. 4 of my former top 10 accounts had transferred their business to Pinnacle by the conclusion of my 2nd month. I ensured that each transition was seamless. In order to guarantee that the initial orders were flawless, my team worked on weekends. I personally visited task sites to verify deliveries. In the industry, it was widely known that the transition from Jeffrey Maddox to Pinnacle resulted in superior service at superior prices. Vanessa then called my phone. Her usual confidence was replaced with a thinly veiled panic as she stated, "We need to talk." I consented to convene at a coffee establishment in close proximity to Pinnacle's office. Vanessa was already sipping a latte when I entered the room, having arrived 15 minutes ahead of schedule. She stated without preamble that this must cease. What is the specific question? What is the matter? Our clients are being pursued by others. I swirled my coffee. I have not approached a single Triller client. She fired back bullshit and then regained her composure. In the past 8 weeks, we have lost for significant accounts. Each of them addressed you by name. Clients are responsible for making their own decisions. Vanessa leaned forward. Jeffrey, we have the option to make this process simple or complex. It is considered easy when you withdraw and we refrain from pursuing legal action for breach of contract. I responded in a composed manner, as there is no breach. I am prohibited from selling millwork for a period of 6 months by my non-compete agreement. Trilix Millwork is not a competitor of Pinnacle's construction supply division. Her eyes are lightened. You are taking advantage of a vulnerability. I am adhering to the precise terms of the agreement that your legal team drafted. I consumed a taste of coffee. It is possible that they should have exercised greater caution. She acknowledged that the board is inquiring about client retention and revenue projections, her voice quivering. It appears to be an internal issue with Trillic. She implemented an alternative methodology. What is it that you are seeking? A consulting agreement? Is there a finder's fee associated with the preservation of specific accounts? I nearly burst out laughing. She continued to be perplexed. Standing up, I declared, I am not interested in arrangements. I am committed to performing my duties to the best of my ability. The remainder is self-sufficient. Frank from Western Commercial contacted me the following day. Their 3-year contract with Trillic was approaching its conclusion. According to him, we are opening it up for bidding. Vanessa has been communicating with me on a daily basis and has committed to surpassing any competitor's price by 5%. I acknowledge that it is a commendable offer. Is it? Jeffrey, I am considering more than just the price. I require an individual who comprehends our organization, an individual who answers the telephone at 7 p.m. when an undertaking is experiencing difficulties. Western granted Pinnacle a 2-year supply contract with an annual value of $2.8 million. It was a significant time to declare that final on the same day, I received an email from It consisted solely of a form and following message which announced that Vanessa would be reassigned to the initiative I did not respond to comments on contact. I simply said Daniel decided to fight the rest, along with a note that this was the first of many. My goal is to generate 20 new business. Vanessa was only beginning to comprehend the consequences of her own. I stood in the conference room for 6 months after I started. Our quarterly performance report was displayed on the wall-mounted screen. The report indicated that we had generated $13.7 million in new business, with expectations that this figure would increase to $22 million by the end of the year. 8 of my former top 10 Trillic accounts had followed me to Pinnacle. Daniel entered the room with a bottle of champagne. Your division's expansion plan has been recently authorized by the board. He disclosed that he had implemented all of your requests, including the hiring of additional personnel and the expansion of the marketing budget. My phone vibrated with a text message from Thomas as glasses were passed around. If you are interested, you may wish to participate in the Trillic Q3 earnings call in just 30 minutes. I disengaged from the revelry in order to participate in the call. As Raymond Peters, the new CEO of Trillic, addressed investors, his voice was agitated. Although we anticipated some disruption as a result of our strategic restructuring, sales have not met our expectations. Our commercial division has encountered unexpected client attrition. An analyst interjected. Could you provide a numerical estimate of that attrition? Estimates indicate that Trillic has experienced a decline in annual revenue of nearly 20% over the past 2 quarters. Raymond refrained from addressing the speculative nature of those figures. An aggressive client retention strategy is currently being implemented. Is it true that Pinnacle Supply Group has recently signed your largest account, Western Commercial? An additional analyst inquired. The silence was unbearable. We are currently engaged in ongoing discussions with all of our significant accounts. Raymond ultimately responded. The call continued, and I received an email from Gabriella, my former employee who had supported Vanessa. Are there any job openings at Pinnacle? Read the subject line. I returned to the revelry, but I declined the champagne. Daniel observed my facial expression. All is well. I have received confirmation and have responded accordingly. The information was disclosed in an industry newsletter that afternoon. Trillic Woodwork experiences challenges following the departure of key accounts. The article specifically referenced my transition to Pinnacle and the subsequent client migration. It cited an anonymous Trillic employee who claimed that the company had profoundly misunderstood the value of its senior sales leadership. I was never required to speak. The figures were self-evident. I sat in my expanded office at Pinnacle examining our annual numbers 1 year to the day after Vanessa informed me that my package was outdated. Even my most ambitious projections were surpassed by the $26.3 million in revenue generated by my division. My team had expanded from 2 sales representatives to 11, and it included a client support staff that was dedicated to clients. Daniel had suggested that a board position might become available, and we had relocated to a larger floor of the building. I maintained a photograph of our division's holiday supper on my desk. Genuine smiles, relaxed expressions. A team that comprehended the knowledge I had always possessed. Trust is the foundation of businesses. I heard my assistant's vibration. Vanessa Claymore is present to greet you. No appointment is necessary. I paused and then nodded. Instruct her to enter. Vanessa's appearance was altered. She appeared more fatigued and less refined. Her designer suit had been substituted with an off-the-rack item. She remained standing after I gestured to a chair, saying, "Thank you for seeing me. What can I do to assist you?" "I am currently employed by Hamilton Group," she clarified. "Business consulting. I was expecting to obtain your viewpoint on Pinnacle's client retention strategy for a case study that I am in the process of composing." The irony nearly caused me to chuckle. She nodded stiffly. "I believe you are already aware of my methodology. I made a mistake at Trillic." "You succeeded," she proceeded. "The market is discussing how you demolished a company without uttering a word. That is an impressive reputation." I refrained from responding. Vanessa had not arrived for the case study. She would arrive in search of reconciliation or absolution. I was not providing any assistance either. She placed her business card on my desk after a brief period of uneasy silence. "I am grateful for the opportunity to engage in a conversation about industry trends," I stated, standing up. "However, I am currently completely booked." Following her departure, I briefly examined the card before disposing of it in the shredder. I drove to my daughter's new residence that evening to attend dinner. She had recently been promoted to the position of senior architect at her organization. "Dad, how is business going?" We were seated on her patio when she inquired. "Well," I responded in a straightforward manner. "Constructing an object that will endure." Additionally, This time, I will not be working with wood. Rather, I will be applying the same principles that have guided me throughout my professional life. Execute the task. Maintain your commitments. Relationships are prioritized over transactions. In the end, Vanessa presented me with an unexpected gift. She had compelled me to demonstrate to myself and all those present the true value of 15 years of trust.